This is a podcast from Rover.
Welcome to Parents We've Met, where we chat about the magic and mess of parenting. Today's guest is the wonderful Kanoa Lloyd. We chat about what parenthood looks like after the project, the big feelings that we have as parents, and the joy of getting to discover who our little people are with all their quirks and qualities.
Kia ora. It's so lovely that you've said yes to joining us on the podcast. We'd love to know a little bit about your whānau, who's in it, age and stages. So share that with us.
Well, kia ora kōrero. Thank you for inviting me. I've decided that 2024 is going to be a bit of a year of yes. And obviously, kind of all I'm thinking about is my daughter at the moment. So the opportunity to talk about raising her and getting some ideas is, it's a very welcome thing, actually. So, our whānau is my husband, Mikey, and my daughter, Nico, who's about 2.5. And, I think our whānau's complete with just one perfect girl and a dog and a cat. A very big dog, a very big cat. We're big people, and she's a big girl, as she tells me all the time at the moment.
Oh, they love to be big kids, these little people. Love to know what are the similarities between the home you're creating, you and Mikey. Can I call him Mikey?
You please do. If you call him Michael, he'll think he's in trouble.
Okay. The similarities that you are parenting or wanting to raise, Nico, and what you actually grew up with in your own family of origin.
The main similarities that Mikey and I both come from houses where we had jobs to do from a very young age. We were part of the running of the household, and that's something that we really try and instill in Nico, that even though she's a small big girl, she's very capable. And so I remember growing up, I spent a lot of time with my nana as well as my mum, as well as my dad and stepmom when I was growing up. All the adults in my life cooked a lot and gave us jobs to do when we were cooking, whether it was just grating the cheese or sifting the flour. And so, we do a lot of that, getting her to cook. Mikey's kind of the laundry guy in our house, so he'll get her to help hang up the washing. And I think things like that, just like the child not being this kind of separate being that you serve all of their needs and they're over there, but being involved as they can be from a really early age. Because I feel as if that's given Mikey and I both a really good work ethic. We both work really hard, and it gives you kind of a sense of purpose and of self. It's just grating cheese, but I still remember that, and I remember feeling really cool and confident doing that when I was little. So I think that's a big similarity. Probably the biggest difference is that I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money, and my daughter has an incredible amount of privilege, and just from where we live and what she has access to and all of those things. And I'm quite mindful of that. I like to make sure that she knows that just because she can doesn't mean she will get that toy or go to that place or so that's a big difference. And I actually feel really grateful that my experience growing up was learning to earn things and save for things, because that's really front of mind for me when I think about raising her.
It's such a thrill to hear you say that you're bringing her up to kind of contribute and be a team player, because it does so much for kids to feel like they belong and they're needed and they're upskilling, they're getting good at stuff. Whether it's grating or cutting or passing pegs, whatever it is. And I think that that's a very deep way of children learning to kind of have a really good sense of self-worth.
That's nice to hear.
Tick from Jenny, doing good. Did you and Mikey talk much about parenting styles or raising kids before you had your daughter?
I wish we had. I was a little bit of a punk when it came to getting pregnant and, starting a family. Initially, we did actually have conversations about what would it look like if we didn't choose to have children. You know, who would we be if we didn't do that? I'm so glad that we decided, okay, let's give this a shot because we've just got the best little person in the whole world. But then, like, when I was pregnant, I was like, I'm not going to go to, what's those classes that you're supposed to do?
Like antenatal classes?
I didn't want to do that. I was like, I don't know, I'll Google it. And so...
Hey, Siri.
I guess it was sort of, you know, at that time I was working really hard on the project and I was just like, I'll just gather information from different places, conversations with my friends who are already parents. Like I have a regular yoga practice. I'm sure I can use some breathing from that when it comes to the crunch. I think we always talked about we'll do whatever works best at the time, but without prescribing to any certain, you know, method. I don't know what kind of parents we are. We're just Mikey and Kanoa. Yeah.
Looking back now, maybe not having a plan. I mean, sometimes, you know, it's good not to have a plan when it comes to birth because things always go so differently.
Yeah, 100%. I think if I had any sort of like firm plan, I would have spent a lot of the 28 hours that it took to bring her into the world feeling disappointed that the plan was going out the window. And so not starting that process with these really massive expectations, just being able to roll through the many waves and changes that came, I do think set the tone for, how we parent, when we're parenting at our best anyway.
Yeah.
I like to think that we roll with the changes, but that's not always possible.
I think a lot of people have to grieve what they hoped for and then what happens. So you didn't have to go through that because you were like, I'm just going to flow with it.
I heard that a lot from a lot of friends is that, like a big letting go process or, you know, when sort of emergency situations came up, that being like a real like screech of the brakes, and grief was definitely a thing that I heard from a lot of friends. And so I think that definitely informed us being like, well, if we have to have a Caesar, we'll have a Caesar. If we have to have an epidural, we'll have an epidural. But like just not deciding one way or the other and then just dealing with it as it came,
I feel like if I was doing a speech, maybe the equivalent to the Academy Awards, but, you know, for parenting, I'd be thanking my friends that, you know, are pretty much like family, the lactation consultant who helped me through a difficult time, the Canadian lady who helped Luca with his tongue tie, and the list would go on because it takes so many people. Who would be on your list? Who's sort of been your community?
I grew up in Dunedin and Mikey grew up in Christchurch, and that's where our parents were living when Nico was born. But they've both moved up, so that's amazing. So they're definitely top of the list. They each have pick up Nico one day a week from daycare. And that's awesome. She has her own whole relationships with them, and it's not informed by, you know, Mikey and I. It's not all built around a dinner. It's like they've got their whole own worlds, and, you know, she has things that she does at grandma's house, at my mum's house, and things that she does at Nana's house, and I just love that. I think that's really cool. My sister is super close. Mikey's brother lives one street over with his two girls, so Nico's cousins, who are 6 and 8, are her favourite people in the universe. We've got a lot of very cool friends and close family who are literally close, but very, very close to our hearts.
We do need to subcontract, and it always cheers my heart, being a grandma myself, that you can actually develop your own little ways, and the children come to love the way you do things. It's quite a special role. One of my favourite sayings is that children are an invitation. When having children is probably the biggest invitation you'll ever get to grow personally, because they touch areas of your life that you maybe lay dormant or trigger stuff that you didn't know you had? Parents will often say I was a calm, lovely person and I got more anger than I've ever had. Have you found having a precious little person has touched areas of your life?
Oh, I'm laughing when you say trigger the anger because I'm like, oh, yes, I'm constantly dealing with that. There's a lot of no. There's a lot of taking 35 minutes to get into the car seat because she wants to do it herself. I really resonate with that. Like, I didn't know that I had that kind of red rage in me. And it's not something that I express to Nico because I don't want her to see a really angry person, but gosh, it takes so much energy to sort of breathe through it and like sort it out and self-regulate, co-regulate. It takes such an enormous amount of effort. And so by the time she's finally in the car seat and you've arrived at the place, I'm like, I'm ready to lie down and go back home again. So yes, I did not know that there were buttons like that could be pressed, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You going to give us any tips?
Any tips? Oh, I think you did. I think you've just said that the journey is yours to go on. And once you get over the shock of realising that you've got anger or disappointment or jealousy of other friends whose 2-year-olds aren't taking 35 minutes to get into a car seat, then you do your own work, which is you breathe through it and you regulate and you go for a little walk and come back to calm down. And I didn't think probably most parents realise there'd be so much personal work in the journey.
And that's it. And I do want to say, like, on the personal work, like I've just said, push it down and chill out. But actually, because I for a very long time have seen a therapist, and something that I am really working on in the last little while is to, like, if anger does come up, to say, oh man, I'm really angry. Maybe not to her, but to myself, to my husband, to my friends, because I think particularly women and New Zealand women, we have this tendency to sort of think that anger is like this unattractive or inappropriate emotion, and it's just another one of the many. And so, yeah, I would hate for anybody to think that I sort of, it's a good thing to just squash the anger down and not address it. It's pointless addressing it right then when we're trying to go somewhere. But yeah, I am really working on not sort of cutting that limb of anger off, because it just ends up worse, I think.
Yeah, I find myself quite often saying to one of my kids, hey, look, I'm feeling quite angry right now. I can feel it happening, so I'm going to walk away and then I'm coming back to you. So,
yeah.
So yeah, I think it's great to actually name it and to walk that through.
Yeah, that is a nice thing. Yeah, I say I'm feeling really cross, and that's funny because it's hearing a 2-year-old say, I'm just a bit cross. It's like, it makes me so happy, and I don't want to laugh at her. I want to like, yes, you are feeling a bit cross. It's a funny word, but it's a very common feeling.
Yeah. How has being a parent influenced your career? Has it changed now, like thinking of opportunities in the future, what you'd say yes to, or even how you look at media now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so obviously my job that I was doing for 7 years, the project ended in December last year. And it's funny what you adapt to just seeing as normal. Like, it was normal for me to be home at 8 p.m. every night. It was normal for me not to put Nico to bed on a weeknight and not be there for dinner, and that was how our family worked, and that was fine. And then as soon as we went into the summer and the change, I was like, oh, I cannot believe what I have been missing out on. And I sort of thought, oh, well, she's so young, she's not really going to know. And then it was literally just like 2 weeks ago, I'd picked her up from daycare at about 4:30, and she just like snuggled into me and kind of flung herself on my body, and she was like, Mama, I love you, and you get me at daycare. And she was just sort of expressing how much she loved that I was able to do that now. And yeah, it broke my heart a little bit, because I was thinking, oh gosh, what does she feel that she's missing out on? But it was really lovely to hear her express that. And so it's cool. Like, I'm able to do that at the moment. I'm working on pre-production on a show, so like a behind the scenes tele job, and they're a super flexible, family-oriented kind of crew of people, and being able to say, oh, I've got to run, I've got to go get Nico, and that's not an issue it's really wonderful. So when that project comes to an end and I move on to something else, that's going to be a really big priority for me, I think. Just people that know that families don't really fit between 9 to 5 or 12 to 8 p.m. What was I thinking? I'm so glad I don't have to do those hours anymore.
I was just thinking about when we first met, you were still at school and you were in Dunedin and you were going and doing reviews on a kids show called Script.
Yeah.
And you've had such an amazing career in media. And one thing that I so respect and love watching is how you have brought Te Reo Māori into mainstream. That's been a real part of you that you've shared with all of New Zealand. How are you teaching your daughter about who she is and with the language and stories and imparting that into her?
Yeah, that's a huge subject that could take up a whole other podcast. I know that a lot of whānau who are thinking about putting their kids into kohanga reo or kura or whatever, it's not straightforward. Like, kohanga reo is school hours, so for working parents like ours, it's one, impractical. Two, you've got to get on massive wait lists in almost every part of the country because, like any magical thing, they're under-resourced. The teachers are, the kaiako are dealing with burnout, so big, long wait lists. Then there's also a big expectation on you as a whānau that your reo is pretty flash before you send your kid into full immersion. So those are barriers that a lot of whānau I know have to clear. And for us, we made the decision that we would just go to a daycare that worked with the way our family works, and try and kind of feed that part of her ourselves. And you know what? I'm just going to say, I don't think we're nailing that at the moment. Like it's funny. So she has always called me mama, which is, like Māori with the little doofa duffers. I actually don't know what those are called on top of the A's. So she calls me mama, but then lots of people say, oh, is your mummy doing this? And so for a while there, she was like her, and she was calling me mummy and trying that out. And I said to my brother, whose kids call him papa, no, she's calling me mum at the moment. And he's like, yeah, that'll happen. And then it'll change back. Like, it's all good. So yeah, I think we're going to constantly run into those things where there's what you hope for and dream of, and then what's practical and possible. But we've got all of the things, like we read books in Māori. That's another thing that she'll fight me on sometimes. Like I'll say, hea te tai, like what's the colour of that? He waiporo tēnei, he purple tēnei. And she's like, no, it's purple. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like it is purple and you're right. And I don't want to tell you that you're wrong, so I've just got to keep kind of bringing it to her and like offering it to her so that she sees her Māoritanga and her reo as something that exists alongside her big, smart, Pākehā thinking brain. It doesn't have to be separate, but they can be sort of woven together. Yeah, sorry, I told you it was a long answer.
No, I love the idea of woven together, and that's quite a beautiful image.
And she's also expressing her 2-year-oldness with, I want to do it my way. So that can last a little while as well.
Yeah, that's cool. And then I'll send her down to her uncle, and then she can learn Māori with the rest of her whānau.
We know that parenting's got some magic. You've just shared some. It's also got some mess in it. Where have you found the messy places for you? Have you found any yet?
Why do you ask it like that? Of course I have. I think the mess comes when there's no holiday from being a parent, there's no moment in the day that it's like, okay, it's just Mikey and Kanoa time now. There is no Mikey and Kanoa time now. I mean, even like we sort of have this practice at the end of each day. We go, oh, should we check in? What are you doing tomorrow? Who can drop her off? What's the dog doing? Will you be finishing early? All of that stuff. And that's sort of the last thing we do after our dinner. which is great. It's necessary, but it just feels often like your brain is taken up with a lot of admin, and your communication is just strategic. So yeah, for me, I would say the mess is just missing those moments of connection between the two of us. I think that are just about who we are and what we want to be doing, and not how do we keep this person alive.
There is certainly a relentlessness in parenting that I think everyone who's on the journey is unaware that it would be so ongoing, and that you'd be reduced to just doing admin, for sure. But the magic, what would you say to that one? The absolute highlights.
Oh, I mean, there is a lot of magic. I think the thing that I think is most wonderful about Nico is when I catch her by herself, if she's like, she loves to read a book to herself, she'll say whatever she remembers from the pages of her favourite books, or she's putting her toys down to bed, or I can hear her talking to her cousins, and just like getting the sense of who this little person is actually making me feel emotional just thinking about it, because it's just so wonderful getting these little glimpses into this internal world of this person and who she is now and who she might be one day. It's
precious.
She's not just talking about her reading a book, but she's such a cool kid.
So lovely. Are you amazed too at how much joy someone using the toilet has brought as well?
So we're deep in toilet training at the moment. And again, I got a bit emotional the other day because she's moved into doing number 2s on the toilet. That's kind of taken a bit longer than number 1s. And I was just looking at her. She likes me to stay in there, and then she'll tell me when she's ready for privacy time. I need privacy time, mama. But I was just watching her, and I was just thinking about how, like, this is such a human thing that you are doing, and you will sit on a toilet for the rest of your life and do this, and I will not need to change nappies for you very, very soon. And it just, it's a really poignant poo moment. So stupid, but it was. I was just, it's very, it's mind-blowing how those milestones can catch you at the most unexpected times, like your kid doing a poo.
Love it. Poignant poo. It's a new one for me. The topic of sleep, it's one that sometimes we avoid because there's so many ideas and views on it. Are you managing much sleep? Are you just rolling with things like you guys do? How are you finding that?
Yeah, we have had, we were getting into the 1.5 hours for put down, which is and that's after bath, pajamas, book. We always have a little check-in about the day, and then the clock would start and it was getting up to 1.5 hours and we were losing the will to live. So we decided we had to drop our lunchtime nap, which was what we were doing, and that was a little bit tricky because at daycare, all the kids in her, she's just in a room with the 2-year-olds, they all have a nap, and so that was a big deal for her to be doing something different to the other kids. So we had to kind of work with her teachers and with her of no, it's cool, it means that, you're getting ready to kind of grow up and go down to the big class. And put down times are down to about 15 or 20 minutes now, which... Hallelujah, because it's just I don't even know what the word for it is. That's not a swear word.
You sound really cross.
It makes you very cross sometimes, Dayna, that's for sure. And look, I think pretty much every single night she gets into our bed as well, and for us that was a huge big stress because we were trying to put her back down in her room and go through a thing, and we were waking up. And then once we decided to just roll with it, to ride the wave, I made her own special pillow, and she helps me choose the pillowcase that goes on it when I make the bed. It goes in between our pillows. That's where she lies, and she just comes in and goes straight to sleep. We don't even really wake up anymore. And so for us, just going, instead of trying to fix this, how can we make what it is work, we all get a lot more sleep now.
Cool.
Great.
And I've crossed my fingers that won't go on until she's 18. Because that would be weird.
You'll be okay. I love watching Bluey. I could probably watch Bluey even if my kids weren't there. I feel so seen in every episode, and I have a few cries watching it.
Yeah.
There's one episode they go on holiday, and the mum Chili, she goes down to the beach by herself, and she's got this moment, and she sits down in her chair, and she's like, okay, reading my book, and then she puts the book down. She's like, no, taking the scenery, and then no, I've got to read my book. And I could so relate. I'm like, I don't know if I know how to relax. I feel like I need to do all these things, and then I can relax.
Yeah.
I mean, you spoke a little bit about trying to find that time at the end of the day for you and Mikey, but for yourself, I mean, how do you do it? Do you give yourself enough time out?
That's something else that I'm really working on this year. I've just started going to the gym, lol, which is very funny to me because, and anybody who knows me, because I'm not a gym person, but I've worked out that it's pretty achievable to find 35 minutes 3 times a week. Like this morning I did it straight after I dropped her at daycare. Sometimes I do it in the evening. Sometimes I'll do it between like meetings or whatever, because it's only 35 minutes. And finding an achievable thing like that has been a great joy. And it actually does make the other stuff easier, you know, like a really short amount of time helps me organize my thoughts to get through the admin a bit better. So yeah, but no, it's difficult. I know exactly that feeling of like the book or the phone or now's the time where I could listen to that thing. Like it is really difficult. It makes you go a bit insane, I think. But yeah, I guess this will just be our battle for the rest of our lives, is finding those little moments.
Sometimes the small scaleness or the way it's just a little thing, like the gym, 35 minutes, even accepting that it's little things is really helpful, because sometimes we're imagining a trip overseas or something that's very blissful, but sometimes it's a coffee with a friend or the gym or something that's just a small treat.
Yeah.
That
and
balances.
acknowledging those things when they happen, like, hey, I've just sat here and not looked at my phone for 5 minutes and nobody's asked me to do anything. Go me. Like if you can notice those things as they are happening for you, then it makes things a bit sweeter.
Do you have any wisdom that you pass on to your friends if they're just about to start the journey? I know we usually wait for people to ask, but there might be something that you think, I wished I'd known this and I'm going to pass this on.
No, I mean, in terms of like actually being a parent, I don't think you can teach anybody that. My only thing that I say is that I'm here, and I mean it when I say I'm here, and I follow up when I say I'm here. I show up sometimes because I know what it's like, if somebody's reaching out to you when you're in that newborn phase saying, let me know if you need anything. The mental process of going, what do I need? What could I ask another person to provide for me at this time is just another job to do when you've got like a screaming child on your body. So I guess that's maybe the best thing I do is I just be like the right amount of annoying of, hey, I'm just going past, I'm just going to drop this on your doorstep. Or, hey, I'm going to come in, you can do a shower or you can go to the toilet or whatever you like, and then I'm going to leave again. So I try and be that person. Yeah.
I love it. Sometimes I like to flip it around here because we've got Jenny and she's been a parent coach for over 20 years. And I talk to her, so I'm asking her questions all the time. Working with me, she can't get away. But me and my husband will sit down and we'll have a bunch of questions like, Jenny, what about this? What about that? But is there anything you would love to ask Jenny right now? Maybe you'd like some ideas, some tips.
Yeah, well, I mean, how long have we got? I've got a very long list.
This is a 3-part podcast.
I actually thought when you were talking about Bluey, a cartoon that Nico really enjoys is Paw Patrol, and there are 2 episodes in that have ghosts in them. it's like these little puppies, and then there are 2 episodes where I can't even totally understand how it happens, but they show up, and she is terrified. And I've done it where I've like put it on, not realised which one I've put on, gone to make a coffee, and she's come out bawling her eyes. It's the kind of thing that she'll talk to me about in the car. Mama, the Paw Patrol Ghosts ones, we're not like that. And I'm like, no, we don't like that. And I sort of like, I'm not quite sure how to talk about something like a ghost with her. Like, it's not real, we don't have those, and to acknowledge that she's scared, but that it's just I don't know what to say to her.
Wow, it's a shame they've got ghosts in this series.
I'm annoyed at them because it's such a cute cartoon.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's all about helping others and those contributing and all of those sorts of things, and then they've put ghosts in there and ruined it.
Yeah. I think children do better when they almost can predict and preempt something's coming up. So really knowing that if she wanted to watch the one, because sometimes children have this I'm scared and I'm curious at the same time. And so you could say, this is a series with the ghost in it. Shall we watch it together? I'll tell you just before it comes. So they almost are stepping into the story and have a little bit of control because they know it's coming. Now, she's only 2.5, so it's going to take a little while. But children love to have certainty, predictability of what's coming up. You make up a story, and you tell the story about some other little girls watching a program, and there's something that comes in that you weren't expecting, and we get a bit of our fright and we feel that our heart is beating a bit faster, but we know that it's just on the screen and we can wave it goodbye. A few little things like that can just help what's actually going to be part of your life.
Yeah.
Surprises.
I love that idea of a bit of exposure, because the reaction is so intense, like really physical and really emotional, that's I'm sort of like, whoa, it's just a telly show. And to be honest, I use cartoons as like a minute to go and make a coffee. So I'm like, oh, okay. But you're right, that just like, I'm here, it's not as big and scary as you are feeling that it is. Yeah, I guess I've got some study to do after this Paw Patrol study.
You're going to have to go watch it now, the whole episode, and see, because sometimes something seems scary and then you watch it through and it resolves itself.
Yes.
And sometimes I think you look at something and it's scary, but then if you go a little bit further, then it's the happy ending or it all makes sense.
Totally, yeah.
But also what you said is there's a feeling that she'll be having. It could be scared, nervous, afraid, surprised, delighted. And we are helping our children experience the feelings without sort of categorising them. That's one we never want to have.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
That's that feeling where we're a bit scared. And so she's not scared of being scared.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Yeah.
One day this little person's going to pack her bags and leave home. She might be 18, she might be 30, who knows? And it's a long way off. But what would you like for her to have become or be learning or have developed by the time that she's ready to say, I'm moving down to a flat, Mum
at the
and
bottom
Dad.
of the garden? Look, I hope that when she grows up, she just really likes herself and is a fan of herself. Like, now we'll say, oh, Nico, you're so cool. And she's like, yes, I am. And I hope she never loses that she has a really good friendship with the person that she is, because I know she's going to take risks and make mistakes and go on adventures, and like all of those things are the business of being human, but I hope that core of who she is really solid. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so precious. Yep, that'll help you get through all sorts of things if you still are on side with yourself and love who you are.
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't want that time to end. I felt like we could have talked a whole lot longer. And there was so many things that Kanoa shared that I loved. One thing in particular, the idea of getting your kids involved and helping around the home. And I mean, her daughter's 2, and already she's contributing, and she feels this, I am contributing. This family works better because I'm doing my part.
I love that too. And I would love more families to just pick up on what good it does for kids to feel like they've been invited into a bigger picture and that they're part of the family. They're not in front of the family. They're not being served themselves. They are offering a service. You know, I even think we should stop calling chores because it's sort of got that negative connotation, but just family contribution where, you know, what can I do to be part of the family? And I think we should also keep it really realistic, because sometimes, you know, parents are thinking, what are the big things my kids could do? Actually, they could just bring their plates out to the sink. They could put their jammies under the pillow. They could water the garden or the pot plants. They could feed the goldfish. They could take some groceries out from the car. They are little things that we start early on, just naturally involving our kids. And it will take a little bit more time because we're teaching them a skill. And so they will be, to start with, inadequate, or they won't quite get it right. And I think if we build that into our depth as well, where we're patient and we're prepared that it's going to take a while and it will be messy. And yes, they'll wipe the bench. And when they've left the room, you'll probably wipe it again. But we are stopping or pausing life to let them get involved.
Maybe though, if they're making their bed, you don't go back and fluff up the 3 pillows to look, you know. Because I sometimes look, you know, at how my kids have made the bed. I'm like, I've got to walk away. It's their room. They've done it, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, I think we do have to learn to walk away from some of the styles that our children will use on the different jobs there are at home.
And these particular jobs, they're not paid for, are they? This is just me being part of the family and doing my bit.
Oh, yeah. Good point, Dayna. Please don't pay your children to do these things. They're not earning a reward. They are learning to be a member of the family. And so, of course, children love to be seen and acknowledged. So a thank you is a very good way of saying, I see you. Thank you for making your bed this morning, or thank you for helping me with the pegs. You passed all those pegs to me while I hung out the washing. That is enough. So nothing too lofty in our praise.
And for parents who are like, yeah, but I really want my kid to have money to learn how to use it and save it, how can they do that?
I think you can have a separate system running alongside this, and it might be that there are some really big jobs that they could earn money for. So, you know, it's cleaning the car, or it's washing the windows, or maybe they're vacuuming the whole house, and they know that this is over and above, and that they are allowed to get money for these things. And so they're learning about saving. And you might even pull out the 3 jars. You know, we talk about the saving, the spending, and the sharing jars. And they're learning to handle cash. So yes, children do need money to get the idea about how to use it and how to be wise with it. But let's just kind of keep them separate.
I loved, there were so many different things that Kanoa shared, and she would say things like, it's not perfect, but, you know, it works for us, or this is in this season, this is what it looks like, whether it was talking about sleep or teaching te reo Māori. I loved that. It was like, this works for our family, and that's okay.
Yeah, it had that refreshing feel that it hadn't been overly researched, and I think we often get caught in that Googling everything and coming up with so many different answers and then not being able to land on anything. But there was a beautiful fluidity in her approach, which is, let's see how it goes, and we can rein it in or make some changes if we need to. And I think that keeps you more peaceful, having that approach.
It was so lovely to hear another parent talk about rage. You know, sometimes you can feel like, am I the only one that is getting so triggered by someone that comes up to my knees, you know? But it's just so common.
It is, and how beautiful to air it, because anger and rage is very real. And even acknowledging that, you know, females have often had a harder job of being able to be allowed to be angry. I know in my family that it was okay to be sad, but it wasn't okay to be angry. And so, you know, you can go through a lifetime unpacking some of those emotions and recognising that I am angry, and that's okay. There's nothing to be ashamed about. Of course, I'm going to find ways to express my anger, and she was great about not unleashing it. You know, we don't want to frighten our kids with our anger, but sometimes being able to say, Mummy's just taking a minute here to, you know, calm down, and I'm going outside to look at the leaves, and I'm doing my deep breathing. We're sharing with our kids how to manage anger and not to be ashamed of it.
Yeah, I love that modelling. I was so glad that ghost question came to you, because I was thinking about, you know, like with a child having an issue with dogs and how you read books and then you know, organise a little play date and maybe one little doggy comes and you build. But I'm like, how do you do that with a ghost, you know? I'm going to wear this sheet and it's going to be okay. I mean, I'm glad I wasn't given any ideas.
Oh, no, you should have jumped in with something there, Dayna, because, you know, I'm not watching Paw Patrol these days, but I think that when we aren't afraid to talk about fear and being scared, we are helping our children learn to just adjust to big feelings that they're going to have about all sorts of things. And I think we should look for books that maybe there is a friendly little ghost in, or something that helps place where the ghost could be, so that children are seeing the whole story or some other views of what it might be like.
Yeah, a little bit silly, not so scary. I like it. If you're listening, maybe you have been going, I agree with that. I've got a little bit of rage, or yes, some big emotions in our home. What can I do? Parents We've Met is brought to you by Parenting Place, and we're all about supporting, encouraging, and coming alongside parents. So if we can help you out, especially Jenny here, then get in contact. Go to our website, parentingplace.nz. We'd love to hear from you.
Rover. Music, radio, podcasts.